Welcome, everyone. This is a great event to introduce our effort to get Assembly Bill 1709 through the Assembly. My name's Linda Prine. I'm a family doctor. I founded the Miscarriage and Abortion Hotline, the Reproductive Health Access Project, and the Abortion Coalition for Telemedicine Access. We are here because we all care deeply about the access to abortion and bodily autonomy that is quickly disappearing across our country. We care about this issue not just for New York State, but for the whole country, which is why we need this SHIELD law to be passed as soon as possible. We're facing a really tough time with Florida and North Carolina about to take away the right to access for abortion. Those were the last two states in the South that had access. Without that, there's no place for people to travel to in anywhere near where they live, not to even speak of places like Oklahoma and Texas, which aren't close to those states in any case. We can't expect everyone to travel to New York or to the northern states. Most people who are facing an unwanted pregnancy do not have the means to travel to get care. We really need to rely on telemedicine abortion. People are getting pills. They're getting them through underground community networks. They're buying them overseas, but it's taking a long time to get them. And by the time they get them, they're later in pregnancy than they should be. And this is really not a good situation. It's very traumatizing for the people that are experiencing this. We need to help them. This is our moral duty. And if we can pass 1709 and get it to the governor's desk quickly, we can maybe be prepared for what might happen when this Supreme Court decision comes down on Wednesday. So for now, I'm going to start introducing people. To start with, we have Shelley Mayer, who's been the... She's been our leader on the Senate side and was the first to come up with the bill, S1066, and we're so proud to be associated with this struggle with her. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Prine. Thank you, Dr. Prine. My name is Shelley Mayer. I'm a state senator from the 37th Senate District in New York, and I was very pleased with a number of my colleagues who are here to be the sponsor of a bill which passed in January of this year, S1066A, which would protect licensed New York medical providers who engage in telemedicine with patients in other states and provide them with the absolutely essential medication and services they need to deal with pregnancy. The doctors and medical students and others who are here today can attest to the real need for New York to step up and continue to be the leader it has been in the face of this attack, not only from the Dobbs decision, but from the decision 10 days ago, potentially outlawing nationally one of the two medications that has been used for medication abortion, which is used in over 50% of the abortions in the United States. So we're joined by many folks here who are advocates on this issue. I want to acknowledge them. They're going to speak. The Abortion Coalition for Telemedicine Access, the New York State Academy of Family Physicians, Medical Students for Choice, Advocates for Youth, and the Center for Reproductive Rights, as well as others, and a number of my colleagues in the Senate and in the Assembly, and my co-sponsor in the Assembly, Assemblywoman Reyes, who has been a driver of this bill. We're here to urge that the Assembly promptly pass this bill, get it to the governor's desk, and continue to have New York show the leadership that the women in these other states desperately need. This is not something we have a choice about. We owe it to our sisters throughout this country to do what New York does best, which is ensure that we provide a legal means for these practitioners who are willing to assume this risk to provide the services so that women can terminate pregnancies, or can deal with miscarriage, or can deal with all of the other medical needs they have. This is about health care. This abortion is health care. So I'm pleased to be joined today by my colleague, the longest standing fighter on this issue, Senator Liz Krueger, co-chair of the Committee on, what is that? We're all owed of the co-chair of the bipartisan pro-choice coalition, which has existed in this legislature. Senator Natalia Fernandez, Senator Tim Kennedy, Senator Michelle Hinchy. My colleagues were there, and with Senator John Liu, and with the leadership of Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins, who saw fit to be in the forefront of ensuring this bill passed in January. With her leadership, we were able to move this bill. We based this in part on something that was done in Massachusetts, signed by a Republican governor, a bill that protected providers in Massachusetts. Now it's moving throughout the country. We are hopeful it's going to pass in a number of other states. But now is the time for the New York State Assembly, under the leadership of Assemblywoman Reyes and her colleagues, to move forward on this bill and to get it to the governor's desk. We now know the urgency of this moment. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Assemblywoman Reyes, but at some point down the line, I do want my colleagues in the Senate to talk about how they came to be so supportive and got the sense of urgency that required us to pass this bill. So I will turn it over to my wonderful colleague, tremendous leader in the Assembly, Assemblywoman Reyes.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Mayer. It's been such an absolute pleasure working with you on this issue. And as a healthcare provider myself, I know that delaying treatment or abortion is critical to not just the life of the mother, but also the legal repercussions that come with abortion. And the longer that somebody waits, the more dangerous it is, and the more difficult it is to get treatment. We know that we have an amazing group of providers in the state of New York that do this work and do this work because they deeply care about it. They know that they are providing a service not just to New York women and pregnant people, but to people throughout the country. And we want to make sure that they can continue to do that safely, that we are going to protect them in New York, that they will not be extradited, that what they're doing is a protected medical procedure, prescription, and it's so important for us to really take a lead in New York and a stand affirming the rights of women to choose what to do when they're pregnant. I want to thank my colleagues in the Assembly because we have an amazing group of Assembly members that have always been supportive on this issue. And we're really putting the pressure on the Speaker to bring this to the floor. We want to get this out of committee and onto the floor. The Senate has already led on this. We cannot waste any time. The decision that we saw in Texas has, again, ignited the sense of urgency that we need to do something now in New York to make sure that we continue to protect the providers that are already doing this work. It is already happening. And if we're going to talk about being the leaders on reproductive access in this country, we really need to behave like it. And the way we do that is bringing this bill to a vote and making sure it gets to the governor's desk for a signature. I want to thank all my Assembly colleagues that are here, Assemblymember Harvey Epstein, Assemblymember Anna Kellis, Assemblymember Alex Bors, Assemblymember Brian Cunningham. Did I miss any other Assembly members? Oh, Mary Jane Shinsky, I'm sorry. Assemblymember Jen Lustberg. So many women and supporters of reproductive rights in our body, and in the bipartisan pro-choice legislative caucus as well, that I co-chair with Senator Krueger, that has also taken the lead in really organizing around reproductive rights issues. And we have a litany of bills and policy initiatives that we support that really will help women, not just in New York, but across the country. And this is definitely one of those that we want to make sure we bring to the finish line. So thank you.
Thank you so much. We've been joined by Senator Leah Webb, who is chair of the Senate Committee on Women's Issues, been a huge champion. Thank you for joining us. Next, we're going to hear from Julie Kay, ACT Access. Julie. Here she is.
Good morning, and I'm so appreciative to all our elected officials and other activists who are joining us here today. I'm Julie F. Kay, a human rights attorney and ACT Access's legal director. This bill, 1709, offers a much-needed legal protection to doctors, midwives, and advanced practitioners in New York who could be providing reproductive health care nationwide. In these post-Roe times of restricted abortion access and conflicting laws like we've seen particularly in the past week, A1709 enables New Yorkers to send a message to our state's dedicated providers that we've got your back. We cannot expect the Supreme Court to save us or to provide any right to access abortion as part of our basic human rights. We need a new legal solution. The telemedicine shield law helps curtail overreach by anti-abortion politicians and recognizes that abortion access is a fundamental right and is a human right to determine whether, when, and with whom to have a child or not. When I helped to work to legalize abortion in Ireland, I saw the harmful and stigmatizing effects of the Irish journey, where women had to travel far from home to access abortion services. It is heartbreaking to me to see the same situation happening now in our country. Travel can never be the only answer. And New York now has a chance to do more. So let's continue New York's proud tradition as a leader in protecting abortion rights, gender equality, and civil rights within our own state and nationwide. Let's enable these dedicated healthcare professionals who are asking to use modern telemedicine to serve women and pregnant people who may not or cannot travel to New York. Let's help them access the essential healthcare and human rights that they need today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Dr. Rochelle Brilliant from the New York State Academy of Family Physicians. And I want to make a point. When we worked hard to find consensus to get this bill passed in the Senate, we worked with providers across the spectrum to address their concerns. We have a bill that we are very confident will withstand constitutional scrutiny and will ultimately benefit the providers in New York who want to step up and be part of this movement. We worked hard to have a consensus view of what would and could be possible. And that's why we're so confident this is a bill that should and must be passed quickly. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Rochelle Brilliant. I'm Vice President of the New York Academy of Family Physicians and a locally practicing family physician. The New York State Academy, on behalf of its 6,000 members practicing across the state, are in strong support of this legislation. We would like to recognize Senator Mayer and Assemblymember Reyes and the other bill sponsors for championing this critical issue. We commend the Senate for passing it in January and urge swift action by the Assembly. We cannot stress enough the importance and urgency of this bill to protect patients who require reproductive health services. Since Roe v. Wade was overturned, the rights of patients to receive legal abortion have been rolled back because of bans and restrictions. Medication abortion and telehealth services to provide access to medication abortion have become indispensable in circumventing these bans and restrictions. In response, Massachusetts and Colorado have passed laws similar to this bill. New York must continue to be a national leader in reproductive health care by taking the same action now. Restricting legal abortion access jeopardizes the health and rights of all. Abortion care is health care, period. Access to abortion is as fundamental as any other health care service. Medication abortions done early in pregnancy as approved by the FDA account for more than 1/2 of U.S. abortions. There are profound negative health implications to restricting access to legal abortions, including pregnancy-related deaths. This legislation would protect New Yorkers and the lives of millions of individuals in 26 states that have restricted abortion access. This is a matter of health equity. Patients without resources to travel for care will be placed in the greatest jeopardy. New York has been a strong leader in protecting reproductive rights, even before Roe v. Wade. In the post-Roe world, New York has pledged to be a safe haven for those in need. The only way to truly meet these needs is by protecting New York clinicians who use telehealth to provide medication abortions to individuals regardless of their location. We strongly urge the State Assembly to pass 1709 and for Governor Hochul to sign it into law immediately. Thank you.
Next, we have Lizzie Hinckley from the Center for Reproductive Rights.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Lizzie Hinckley. I'm State Legislative Counsel for the Center for Reproductive Rights. Medication abortion is under attack nationwide, so it is critical that the legislature protect providers here in New York who are helping people in other states access abortion pills via telemedicine. Massachusetts, Colorado, and Washington State have passed protective laws like this, and Vermont and California are on track to pass similar protections in the weeks to come. In this time of uncertainty and chaos, New York providers need as much protection and reassurance as possible. Although complete protection isn't possible, Assembly Bill 1079 provides a level of protection to New York providers that does not otherwise exist. For some providers, this level of protection will be enough for them to start offering abortion pills via telemedicine to people in banned states. One provider can reach thousands of vulnerable abortion seekers for whom traveling to New York is not a possibility. Not only will this free up appointments in New York for New Yorkers, for many, it will mean they are able to exercise their fundamental human right to bodily autonomy and self-determination rather than experience state-sanctioned forced pregnancy. This bill and laws like it are a response to a public health human rights crisis of the anti-abortion movement's own making. In this time of crisis, we must revisit the frameworks we have worked in the past. We cannot play by two different sets of rules if we hope to protect abortion access and restore abortion rights in the United States. The Center for Reproductive Rights urges the New York Assembly to act swiftly and pass Assembly Bill 1709. Thank you.
Thank you, Lizzie. Next, we have Sarah McNeely from Medical Students for Choice, and then Sydney Johnson from Advocates for Youth. And then I want to let some of our colleagues, Senate and Assembly colleagues, speak about the bill. And then we have questions for Maggie Carpenter, who's an expert answerer.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah McNeely. I'm a medical student at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine and a leader within Medical Students for Choice. And here today, the Medical Students for Choice are representing students not only across New York State, but across the entire country and calling on the New York State Legislature to pass 1709. New York is indeed a safe haven for people seeking abortion care. Since the fall of Roe v. Wade, we've done so much, taken so many crucial steps to urgently safeguard patient and provider rights, to expand abortion access, and reduce disparities in New York State. But our state can still do so much more. Just as the legislature enacted an interstate shield law that protects New Yorkers who provide in-clinics abortions last year, we need to pass the telemedicine abortion shield bill that extends those same protections to clinicians and pharmacists providing medication abortions across state lines. Such legislation, which advanced through the Senate in January but has since stalled in an Assembly committee, has never been more crucial. Medication abortion has been safe, legal, and effective in the U.S. since 2000 and accounted for more than 50% of all abortions in the U.S. in 2022. Yet, 15 states now restrict medication abortion in addition to the 12 that outright ban the procedure. With this bill, New York would become the third state after Massachusetts and Colorado to defend telemedicine abortion providers, and in so doing, ensure ongoing access for medication abortion and ensure that it does not hinge on having enough licensed providers. So today, as the next generation of abortion providers, we're calling on the state Senate to pass this bill, not just for New Yorkers who need this, but because everyone needs this. Thank you.
Sydney Johnson, Advocate for Youth.
Hi, I'm Sydney Johnson. I'm a member of the Advocates for Youth Activist Network, and I'm here on behalf of the Reproductive Justice Collective of New York. I'm the direct support lead of a statewide coalition of student and youth organizers fighting for increased reproductive access for young people. We think that it is vital in this post-Roe era when our clinics are experiencing unprecedented demand, increased harassment, and longer wait times that we do all we can as a state to expand access to abortion care. We can do this by passing A1795 for medication abortion access on campus and A1709 for protecting telemedicine abortion providers. Both bills will increase access points for medication abortion, an incredibly safe and studied method, to reduce the burden on our clinics and stop the continual exceptionalization of abortion care so we can live up to being a pro-choice state. We know also that misoprostol-only abortions are very safe and continue to be a possibility regardless of the court's decisions, both on campus And across state lines, telehealth access to medication abortion presents a deeply important solution for abortion access at a time when it is so desperately needed. Thank you, and now I'll pass it back to Linda Prine.
Okay. So next, we're going to hear from Senator Liz Krueger, co-chair of the Bipartisan Pro-Choice Legislative Coalition.
All right, Liz. Hi. So Shelley referenced I've been doing this a long time, which is just referencing that I'm very old. And I first trained as a Planned Parenthood counselor in Chicago when I was in college in 1976. So I guess it has been a long time that I've been in this fight. But I am so, even though we're in crisis in this country and it's real, I say it's almost at the level of Civil War crisis when it comes to access to health care and the rights of the people of our country. And yet I look around with my colleagues here today and with the legislature, both houses, and I can tell you in 2010, when we decided to start the pro-choice caucus, bipartisan legislative caucus, most people laughed at me and said, why would we need that? What's the problem? And today I can look around and I can see two houses filled with pro-choice legislators who understand fundamentally the fight that we are in, not just for the health and safety of the women in this country, but for the soul of this country. And so I urge my colleagues in the Assembly, get this bill over the finish line. We all know that's the right thing to do, but also to reference, we are moving many critical pieces of legislation in this state. We are trying to move some right through the budget as we speak to make sure that New York State is continuing to be the leader in the country and also the sanctuary that people in 26 states of this country now need. And everyone has said it so articulately here. People can't all travel to New York to get the services we need. And they are often only discovering, I love this crap. Well, everybody should know they're pregnant by the time they're 6 weeks pregnant and just deal with it then. Okay, women, never mind men. How many of you have missed a period in your lives? Okay, what the hell are we talking about? So, thank you, Shelley Mayer. Thank you, Karina Mayer. Thank you, everyone, for helping us make sure that we move the bills we need to move in New York as quickly as possible. Thank you.
I'm going to bring up Assemblymember Anna Kellis to share some remarks.
I'm here just in solidarity. What we just heard was so brilliant. I don't think anyone else is needed to top that. But I do think that it's important that we all share our voices, that we all do stand united. We do know that women have been relegated once again to second-class citizens in the United States. And thank goodness we have a state that is saying that will never happen here. We are all standing here to say that won't happen. For those of us who have experiences where abortions were absolutely critical to avoid abusive marriages, like myself, like others, my life would be forever changed if I had not had access to abortions. So I stand here in many ways as a survivor of this experience, and to have had that taken away, to not have had that right, I would not be here today. I wouldn't be here today. So thanks to all of my colleagues, a huge thank you to Assemblymember Reyes, to Senator Mayer. Thank you so much. This means the world to me and to so many people in the state and to the country. Really, truly, thank you so much.
Senator Tim Kennedy is joining us.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. First, let me start by giving credit where credit's due to the extraordinary leaders that are bringing this bill forward. Senator Shelley Mayer, thank you so much for your leadership. Assemblywoman Reyes, thank you so much for your leadership. And to those who have spoken, including Senator Liz Krueger, who has led on this issue of abortion access in New York State for decades. We're so proud of her continuing to lead. To all of the doctors, to all of the folks that are here, the students, from all across New York and national leaders like Andrea Miller, who have joined us here, who has been a leader here in New York and across this nation. We're so proud to join together with you. As has been mentioned, this is a war on women that's being waged across this country. And New York State, once again, is stepping up to the plate and leading in this nation. It is absolutely imperative that we continue to do so, because if not, women will die. And we've seen that not only across this country, but we've seen this across this globe. As Julia Kay has mentioned, the fight that happened across the sea in Ireland happened because of a death of a woman, Savina Halappanavar, who didn't have access to abortion and died in a hospital because of doctors who were afraid to perform a procedure to a baby that was miscarrying. We want to back up doctors like Dr. Brilliant and Dr. Prine here and other doctors across New York State and lead across this country and show that New York State is doing it right. And remember how we got here. Remember that for years, as Senator Krueger and as Senator Mayer has mentioned, there was folks that wanted to lull us into a sense of taking this issue for granted, complacency, and saying nothing will ever change. Roe v. Wade is the law of the land, it'll never change. And remember the Republican majority in the state Senate that said, we don't need to pass the 10th plank of the Women's Equality Act. Well, it took a Democratic Senate under the leadership of Senator Andrea Stewart Cousins and the leaders that are here today to get in place to pass that 10th plank. I was proud to be a part of that passage, to co-sponsor it. I'm proud to co-sponsor this bill here today. But you know what? We codified Roe v. Wade into law here in New York State. And now we have to continue to pass important bills like 1709 in the Assembly, as we passed on January 29th here in the Senate, to show that New York State is leading and to really show other states across the nation how to lead on abortion access in this country. When the laws of the land continue to be rolled back, continue to be attacked. And remember, just in the last couple of years, when the Supreme Court justices came before Congress and under oath said Roe v. Wade is the law of the land, it is established law. They lulled us into a sense of complacency. They lied to us, and when they had the first opportunity, they turned their backs on women in this nation. They rolled back Roe v. Wade, and now it's up to states like New York to lead the way, and I'm proud to join these extraordinary leaders in making this happen. So thank you to each and every one of you for being here today, and for all of you leaders.
So one of the strategies in us getting this to the finish line is making sure that we have our committee chairs on board. And one of the committees that is also reviewing this piece of legislation is the Assembly Insurance Committee. So I want to bring up the chair of the Assembly Insurance Committee, Assemblymember David Webber.
Thank you, Assemblymember Reyes, for your leadership on this, and my friend Senator Shelley Mayer for your leadership in the Senate. There is a very important insurance aspect here. We have to make sure that there's coverage for all of medication, abortions, and access, to everyone. And the other problem was mentioned about doctors being hesitant. They're also worried about their malpractice insurance. And we have to make sure that this has no effect on their malpractice insurance, that it doesn't increase their premiums. It's very important that since we're all committed to abortion access, to women's health, to telemedicine, that there's no discrimination by insurance companies and that medical personnel do not have to worry about increases of their malpractice insurance premiums. So I am fully behind this legislation. And will join as a proud co-prime sponsor. Thank you.
Senator Natalia Fernandez. And I know,
I'll be very short and sweet. I know I look like a doctor, but I'm not a doctor. I am Senator Natalia Fernandez, a proud supporter of this piece of legislation and a woman that is fighting for all women in this country and in this state. And I'm incredibly proud and thankful to my colleagues for putting this forward because, as it's been said, New York State needs to be the leader. We have started so much when it comes to protecting women's rights on so many things, and we cannot let up now. We need to show the United States that there is help. We have partners in other states, and New York needs to be that main partner. So we need to see this pass. If I'll talk to Carl, maybe we'll get it done. But I know we can do this. Every day is a day that this is possible, and we need to make that day today. Thank you so much. Assemblymember Mary Jane Shinsky.
Even a year and a half ago, not too many people would have thought that this issue, access to miscarriage and abortion treatment, would have become one of the leading, defining human rights issues of our time. But there you have it. The side that doesn't care about women, that are willing to let women die in their own states rather than maybe give them a drug that could perhaps cause a miscarriage in some other women. We need to be in the forefront. We need to join our fellow pro-human rights states, and we need to get this passed now. Thank you so much to my colleague, Assemblymember Reyes, and to my neighbor in Westchester, Senator Mayer. And I look so forward to getting this across the finish line. I can't wait to vote for it.
We have Senator Leah Webb, who's chair of the Committee on Women's Issues, which is driving the train on a lot of these issues in the Senate. Senator Webb.
You know, again, I want to thank my colleague, Senator Shelley Mayer and Assemblymember Reyes for this important legislation. I'm thinking about Assemblymember Cunningham, as in a previous press conference, he actually made this point. I thought it'd be salient, like, what can you say that hasn't already been said? I'm giving you credit while you're standing here, if you weren't standing here. But, you know, I think when you talk about the complexity of reproductive care and why we're standing here as a legislative body and pushing for this essential service, it can really be condensed down into three things. One, as a state, we believe in autonomy, right? Yes. We believe that women should have autonomy over their bodies. The second piece to this equation also stems with the idea and values we center in this issue, and that is we recognize that we must protect it. And so taking these steps to protect this essential care, such as reproductive care, abortion, access, that is critical. And the third piece is access, and that's what this bill does. It literally is expanding access to this essential care. And as a state, and we've heard colleagues say that we have to be a leader, and I always ask the question, what does that mean to the everyday person? That when we say as a state we want to be a leader on this issue, what does that look like? We have taken steps and continue to take steps on the policy side as it relates to this critical issue. And that's one of the first things, in being a new senator, you know, I was proud to, one of the first things I voted on related to this essential care. But also being a leader requires us to listen. And what we are doing as a state, we are listening to the women in our state because they are telling us that we have to do more. And the country is demonstrating that if we don't do more, not only will we be failing all of the women here in the state, but the millions of people that are coming to our state as we speak because of policy decisions that are happening in other states that are having an impact on us as a country. And so I wanted to lift that up because it can sometimes get lost in translation, and I'm all about keeping it very simple. What we are doing with this bill and the many other bills that we are passing focuses on those three key areas, and we have to continue because we know that if we don't, not only will there be a loss of life, right? it also blends into other things because it sets a precedent for determining what issues get focused on. And if we sit by idly and let this go on and, as one of my colleagues said, become comfortable, then we will be lulled into a false sense of security, because although we are taking steps as a state that are important, we have to continue to do more. And so again, I just want to thank Senator Mayer and Assemblymember Reyes for their leadership on this issue with their bill that they have put forward, and I'm a proud co-sponsor, and I implore all of us to continue fighting, not just as a legislature, not just as an executive branch, but as an entire state, centering our advocates who are on the ground every day, hearing directly from our constituents, that we make these steps, these policies, these practices equitable, and ensure that we have access to the essential care of reproductive care. Thank you.
You know, there were some who said when this bill was introduced, why do we need this? And they were wrong at that point. But after the Texas decision, no one can say that now. My colleagues know my family history with this. My great-grandmother died because abortion was illegal. It was 1943. She, like most people that have an abortion, already had children, knew she couldn't have another. The procedure went wrong. She started bleeding out, but she was too afraid of the law to go get health care. What this bill does is eliminate that fear of the law. That was 1943. That story should not be relevant 80 years later, but sadly it is. And because it is, we desperately, desperately need to pass this bill. Thank you.
I think Senator Michelle Hinchy, and I think my other senator.
Hello. I'll be very short. I just want to thank my colleagues, those who have shared their stories, and especially our sponsor, Senator Mayer and Assemblymember Reyes, for their leadership on this issue. I think we all remember where we were the moment the Roe decision became public, or was leaked, I should say. I think it's safe to say everyone in this room knows exactly where they were, and will never forget that. And we'll never forget that feeling. And I know for me, as I'm sure many of us did, overcome by tears and by fear and by sadness. And that's someone who lives in the state of New York, where we are not only fighting to help others across our country, but I knew that the leadership here in our state, those as much as we can be based on the state laws that we can enact, we would be protected. And I just want to say a huge thank you, because the only thing I think that continues to drive so many of us forward in these days that are incredibly dark is knowing that we have leaders in this space who are working together, not just our legislators, but the doctors and the clinicians and the volunteers and the advocates who are making sure that every single stone is not left unturned. Because every single person in this country deserves health care. That is a right. And we have a responsibility, as we have heard today, to do everything that we can to make sure that people are safe and protected and can live the life that they want to live under their own decisions and create the pathway that they can for themselves. And so thank you to everyone who's here, especially the students, because you all are the ones who are going to be carrying this mantle forward, making sure people in New York and across this country are protected. So thank you all, and I look forward to getting this bill passed in the Assembly so that we can make it law here in our state.
Sure, I'm gonna bring up Assemblymember Farris to front for us.
First of all, I want to thank the brave sponsors, Senator Mayer, and of course my nurse colleague, Assemblymember Carinas Reyes. I stand here to, really say and reiterate a lot of what was said before, which is abortion is healthcare, and healthcare is a human right. And so when we know that we're providing women access to the care that they need at the time that they need it the most, then we really are amplifying the need for dignity, a life of dignity. I will say that I made the choice before when I was young to not get pregnant, right? To focus on my passions and making sure I put forth my family, make sure I, build myself up. But then I can't remember the date in November, but sometime in November when I first heard the heartbeats of my baby, I made a choice then to have my baby. And I'm so happy and proud of the choice that I make today when I see my nearly 2-year-old run around. But that was a choice, and that's what we're fighting for. Choice and access for women across the United States, where you don't have to sit and choose silence, where you can choose health, where you can choose dignity, you can choose yourself, and you can choose to leave the path and the destiny that you choose for yourself. And that's what I'm really, really excited to stand here along with all the fighters, the future health practitioners here. Thank you so much, and let's keep on fighting.
Close, Assemblymember Harvey Epstein.
So last week in the New York Times, there was a story about a woman from Louisiana who needed a medically necessary abortion and couldn't get one in Louisiana, even though it was legal under the state law. She had to come to New York, and the stories of that woman and the risks that she was taking for her life, as a parent across the country. So what we're saying here in New York, and we continue to say, is reproductive justice is a right. And in New York, we stand for that. So how do we stand for that? Is by passing this bill. And we have amazing medical students and college students and professionals saying this is critical. We have an opportunity now to be a leader in New York. We have an opportunity now to say this matters. Reproductive justice matters to us all. And one way to do that is to pass this bill. Thank you.
Okay. Now there are questions for Maggie Carpenter. Maggie, come position. Any questions?
Hi, I'm just here to answer any questions and just to say, again, thank you to everybody for your support in passing this bill. The malpractice issue is one that actually the Abortion Coalition for Telemedicine is working on right now. Because of the way malpractice law is written, it gets pretty complicated. But the way that this bill has been written, it would offer us protection. And that's what's most important.
Well, there is express provisions in the bill to deal with the range of on-the-ground challenges that these providers are going to and have faced, whether it's malpractice, whether it's a civil judgment, whether it's disciplinary action. We built in as much protection as possible. We worked with our colleagues from the organizations, like you heard here today, the Academy of Family Physicians and others on the ground. And I just want to give credit to my counsel, Michael Cecil, who helped work on the technical parts. And we spoke with experts around the country in ensuring we crafted a bill that would withstand scrutiny, because we know these bills are subject to lawsuits. So we built in the maximum amount of protection in every one of these regulatory areas that providers are concerned about. And I would point out the providers here today and those who have led this fight, they're not getting the credit. They have had extraordinary courage in doing this without a bill. Now we want to actually give them the protection they deserve, and we built in both criminal protection, civil protection, regulatory protection to the best of our ability.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Anyone else want to acknowledge?
I didn't acknowledge Assemblymember Joanne Simon, who joined us.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So I want to thank, really, I want to thank my colleagues, and I think it was important to hear them because we are at a point where we need this bill to have momentum in the Assembly, and then we need the governor's office to be fully on board, which I'm confident they will be when it passes. And that, we stand ready to work with our Assembly colleagues to address any outstanding concerns, but we believe we have met the challenge of the regulatory and legal obstacles that we anticipate. We're realists. But I also want to thank the practitioners, the students, the organizations, those who are truly the leaders. We have worked on this bill for over 6 months with all of them to get to a bill that we could pass. They are here today because of their courage, their relentlessness, and their integrity, and they deserve the credit for being here along with the legislators. So thank you all.